What's up, friends? Today, I wanted to go over Brandon Sanderson's latest novel, Isles of the Emberdark. Just finished the audiobook for it, and I have thoughts. I'm going to start with spoiler-free thoughts, and then I'll get into my spoilery thoughts later. Overall, I enjoyed this book. I feel like it had the classic Brandon Sanderson fun. It had the classic Brandon Sanderson hope. It felt like a Brandon Sanderson book, and it was a good Cosmere book in general. It's probably my least favorite of the Cosmere books. That being said, it's still not bad. If you are new to Brandon Sanderson books, I would recommend reading other books of his before reading this one. This is not like a starter book for his books. This is you've read a bit of it, you're a little bit familiar with what's going on, you might need to look up some terms type of book. There's things that he's putting in here for people who are paying really close, deep attention. I felt that the characters were both fun and interesting. I like Six of the Dusk's journey in general. I like the fight that he has against colonization and balancing the traditions and the old with the new and the change of time. I thought that was really well done and really well established. Starling was an okay character. She was fun. She was quirky. I don't mind Brandon Sanderson's fun and quirky characters. I know there are some people who do mind that. So if you do mind that, she takes up a lot of space in this book. You might not like this book because she is a primary character. I felt like her storyline felt a little all over the place, a little jumbled. And I feel like in general, the book suffered in the first half for lack of clear focus on her part. I felt like everything that happens in the first act is just to get her to the second half, and it's not getting her there fast enough. It felt like it just dragged in getting us to that point. The stuff with Six of the Dusk in general is really good, but I felt like the primary antagonist for both of them was not introduced early enough in the books for it to be effective. I feel like it would have been more effective to introduce Major Danger, who is the primary antagonist in this book, much earlier in some way. Not necessarily full on showing his face, but maybe a rumor about him. Overall, fun book, but, suffering in a few ways. I feel like the first half of Starling's adventure in general just wasn't that interesting. I felt like the early antagonist that they introduced wasn't well established, and that it didn't seem to have enough reason for her to make the decisions she makes. And I felt like her character arc that is explained at the end is not established early enough as a flaw in her character, so that it feels a little rushed when we get to that really short character arc of her deciding to change a certain quality about herself. Spoiler territory. I think that if you're going to promise dragons in a book, if you're going to start with dragons, you got to give us dragons. Game of Thrones, book 1, as an example. He promises zombies from the prologue. He gives us zombies in that book. Zombies attack people. It's great. He promises dragons in the first couple chapters. Later on, what do we get? We get one of the coolest dragon scenes ever written. It is so great, and it feels like everything is fulfilled in that chapter. In this book, we are promised dragons. We get no dragons. And I get that it was a self-sacrifice thing, and she was giving up her dreams for her crew and for the people she loved. But I mean, if you're going to promise dragons to fantasy people, you've got to give them dragons. You can't just give them humanoids that have dragon qualities and that have cool dragon powers. You've got to give them dragons. There's got to be a dragon somewhere. Like, it doesn't have to be Starling that turns into a dragon, but someone's got to turn into a dragon and do cool dragon stuff. Everything with Six of the Dusk, very fulfilling. He needs to find this balance between the old and the new. I feel like he finds a really good place for that balance. I like that they fight off the colonizers in a really fun and interesting way. That was super well done. I do think, as I said before, that Major Danger is introduced way too late. They could have put him much earlier as at least a rumor of a Scadrian that is especially dominant against them and that is this domineering presence. I feel like if he would have been brought up earlier, we could have had him in the back of our mind as this antagonist, as this personification of the colonizer. And I think that just would have been better. I think having whispers of him, not just as a Scadrian, but as someone that Starling has had a tiff against in the past, or that Leonorio or someone on her crew has had a tiff against in the past, like bring that into the story earlier, just could have established that better. I don't know how. I just feel like he needed to be established earlier. I don't know how he does it, but that felt like something that was put in too late. And once we got there, everything was fun. The book was enjoyable. But for the first half, it felt like a slog. It felt like I was waiting to get to that point where there was that good conflict that moved things. I felt like the mutiny on the ship just did not seem like it had a strong enough motivation. I don't feel like I disliked the previous captain enough to excuse the mutiny. It felt like it was just necessary to get Starling to this position, this new leadership position. And I feel like they should have shown in that moment, hey, Starling is not a great leader because she's a little overbearing. In general, she's fun, she's positive, but she needs to learn to overcome that. We should have shown that flaw like from that first scene when they're doing the mutiny and have that character flaw introduced. The fact that we didn't just weakens the story, in my opinion. In general, fun. I just feel like some of those key elements weren't introduced early enough for it to have as strong a payoff later on. Also, the big dude in the metal suit, like that's just for you, just like the very specific fan base who knows exactly what's going on and who is gonna kind of eat that stuff up. It felt like we wasted way too much time in describing this guy for him not to come back at any point and to never see him again. Fun book. It still worked. It still was good. Like, I still enjoyed it. I think Brandon Sanderson's a good writer. I think his stories are generally good. I just thought it was a little weak for what I've come to expect from him. Those are my thoughts on the story. I make music. I have a Patreon. I do all those little things. If you're interested in any of that, I'd love for you to check that stuff out. If not, that's cool too. I'm chilling. You could hate what I'm saying. You could really love Isles of the Emberdark. I, in general, liked it. I just think there are much stronger books from Brandon Sanderson. Any of his other Cosmere books, really. I'd put this at the bottom. And for late Cosmere books, I feel like Sunlit Man is just so much better. A better book in every way, shape, and form. So if you're going to read a late Cosmere book, read that one first. Or read this one first so that you can have your expectations exceeded by that other one. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much. Catch you on the flip.
So over dramatic. Every time I point out, all you give me is static.